Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sportsball Jersey. Joe Archino back here, and I think we could finally put some Chip Kelly criticism to rest. Now, obviously, things have kind of changed. It is a new day for Chip Kelly. He's now the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, well past his days with the Philadelphia Eagles. But, he always did get the criticism for the way that he handled the player evaluations, kind of getting rid of certain players, the way that he handled some things like that. Now, I don't think Chip Kelly was a good talent evaluator, was a good GM. It's too difficult in the National Football League to be a head coach and to be a personnel guy. You can't do it. There's not enough time to do two things well. It's why you need a general manager. I think he certainly learned from that. But where I thought that the criticism was never really deserved was in the parting of the players that he did. Now, he obviously parted with two players which made the most noise and which were the two best players that he parted ways with, and that was DeSean Jackson and that was LeSean McCoy. Well, surprise, surprise, news has come out about LeSean McCoy. He's now the center of a police investigation after two officers were hospitalized. It seemed like there was a scuffle between, and LeSean McCoy is certainly a suspect in the two officers being hospitalized. Now, they were off-duty police officers, but I think for the most part, when we connect things together, somehow there was a scuffle that entailed between these two off-duty cops, LeSean McCoy and Curtis Brinkley, and I think looking at this, all I could think of was Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly. DeSean Jackson, when Chip Kelly parted ways with him, what were all the reports saying? That DeSean Jackson was involved. He had gang ties. He was hanging out around with the wrong people. You could tell by just the action sometimes that there's a guy who just has the low character, things of that nature. The gang ties were something that totally unacceptable to have any part of that in the National Football League with everything this league represents. Parting ways with DeSean Jackson. He was a tremendous player at the time, but you know what? Sometimes character means everything. I think for myself covering the New York Giants this season for 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio Albany, I was around Tom Coughlin all season, and if there's one thing that I learned from being around him so much, it's that sometimes everything goes above football. A lot of these coaches, they teach these guys how to be young, how to be men. They teach them how to instill the values that will last a lifetime, virtues that you should live your life by. And for a guy like Kelly to part ways with a guy like Jackson, I think, to me, it's totally justifiable. It's totally understandable. When the gang tie element is incorporated to the player, I want nothing to do with that player. Now let's go to LeSean McCoy. Very heavily criticized at the time for cutting ways with LeSean McCoy, which I guess for some part you could say I understand it. LeSean McCoy was one of the league's leading rushers. His quickness fit perfectly into what Chip wanted to do offensively, but low character is also something that comes into question, as we now see at the center of a police investigation. Surprise, surprise, now LeSean McCoy is in trouble. And there were reports also. I'll never forget reading one thing where a Philadelphia restaurant owner said LeSean McCoy, a couple guys came into his restaurant, couldn't have been more disrespectful, left an incredibly minimal tip. Things like that matter. When I'm looking at a player and I'm trying to evaluate you and you're trying to make claims about Chip Kelly, even some people try to make claims to a racial degree, which were always totally bogus. You're seeing now, this is why Chip Kelly parted ways with DeSean Jackson and parted ways with LeSean McCoy. Low character is something that there's just, it's difficult enough to be a head coach in the National Football League. You need guys who are going to create a positive thinking environment, guys who are always going to be totally bought in, and guys who are going to rub off on their teammates the right way. DeSean Jackson, I have my doubts about that, about him doing those right things. And LeSean McCoy, although he was a great player as well, I have my serious doubts that LeSean McCoy was doing things and helping to create a positive environment for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you see now why Chip Kelly did what he did, and I think for all the people that try to criticize him for cutting those players, I think now you can finally look at it and say, okay, we were wrong on that one. Now, clearly he was wrong on some of the. I mean, those weren't the only players that he parted ways with. Yes, he made some mistakes, but I think the biggest ones were LeSean McCoy and were Deshaun Jackson. And you're really seeing now, when you look back and you put it all into perspective, why he got rid of those guys. LeSean McCoy, center of police investigation. Deshaun Jackson, gang ties. There's no room for that stuff in the National Football League. You need to create a positive thinking environment. You need to promote virtues that go beyond the football field. There's no room. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I think, Chip Kelly, now that he's there in San Francisco, he'll really be able to get back to just coaching and doing what he did best. I mean, don't forget, he went 10-6 his first 2 seasons with Nick Foles basically as his starting quarterback. And when you look at what Nick Foles did with the Rams, didn't look too good. With Chip Kelly, threw 7 touchdowns in a game with Chip Kelly as his quarterback. Sometimes things just, you take on too much responsibility. You try to do too much. Sometimes you just need to get back to doing what you do best, and that's just coaching. Chip Kelly can now get back to that, what he did best in coaching. He made some mistakes along the way in the player personnel department, but you know what? I think when it comes down to it, anybody who tried to criticize the moves that he made, cutting those star players, right now with the news that finally about LeSean McCoy, you see why he did it. Low character. There's no room for it. Chip Kelly, he made the right decisions. He made the right calls. And I think this season with the 49ers, he's going to make a lot of the right calls on the football field, coaching where he belongs. But until that happens, Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino, on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino. And I'll see you folks next time.